Ever wonder what inspired a clump of seaweed to become a beloved TV character? Or why Rip Taylor had to flee a burning studio in full fish costume down Hollywood Boulevard? From catastrophic fires to Wizard of Oz connections, the bizarre production secrets and wild behind-the-scenes stories of Sigmund and the sea monsters are stranger than any sea monster tale. Fact 1. Born from beach seaweed. The inspiration for Sigmund and the sea monsters came from one of the strangest places you could imagine, a morning jog on the beach. Sid Croft had a daily routine of running 9 miles along the San Diego coastline, and one fateful day during his run, something unusual caught his eye. A large clump of seaweed had washed up on the shore, and as the tide rolled in and out, the seaweed bounced and bobbed in the waves in a way that looked almost alive. Sid stopped and watched it, mesmerized by how the kelp seemed to dance playfully in the water, almost like a creature frolicking along the beach. Right there on the sand, he had a vision. What if this seaweed wasn't just plant matter, but actually a living, breathing sea monster character? He was so excited about the idea that he scooped up the clump of seaweed and hauled it back to his production office to show his brother Marty. When he walked in carrying this dripping mass of kelp, he announced to everyone that he'd just found the star of their next television show. Together with Marty and producer Cy Rose, Sid began developing what that seaweed creature would look like, how it would move, and what its personality would be. That random piece of ocean debris eventually became Sigmund Ooze, the friendly sea monster who just wanted to be friends with humans instead of scaring them. Fact 2. Studio Center far during Season 2. The production of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters took a dramatic and dangerous turn when disaster struck during the filming of the very first episode of Season 2. While the cast and crew were videotaping the opening scenes, a hot studio light suddenly came crashing down from above and landed directly on the styrofoam cave set that served as the Ooze family's underwater home. The moment the superheated light made contact with the flammable foam material, it instantly ignited a massive fire that began spreading rapidly through the soundstage. The flames were so intense and moved so quickly that they completely obliterated the entire Sigmund stage, destroying every single set piece, costume, and prop that had been carefully crafted for the show. The fire was so out of control that it even spread to the neighboring Barnaby Jones sets on the same lot, causing extensive damage there as well. Miraculously, while one cameraman sustained severe third-degree burns and 2 other crew members suffered injuries, everyone else managed to escape the inferno without serious harm. However, the damage was catastrophic. Literally everything had to be rebuilt from scratch. Production was completely shut down for 3 full weeks while the Crofts scrambled to reconstruct sets, remake all the sea monster costumes, and even rewrite and scale down scripts to work with much more minimal set designs. When Season 2 finally resumed filming, most episodes were shot with significantly simpler, bare-bones sets because there simply wasn't enough time or budget to recreate the elaborate designs from the first season. Fact 3. Rip Taylor's Hollywood Boulevard escape. When that devastating studio fire broke out during Season 2 production, perhaps no one had a more bizarre and embarrassing escape than comedian Rip Taylor, who had just joined the cast as Sheldon, the Sea Genie. At the exact moment the flames erupted, Rip was already in full costume for his scenes, which meant he was wearing green body makeup from head to toe, a flowing cape, bright pink shorts, and oversized rubber flippers on his feet. As the fire alarm sounded and everyone was ordered to evacuate the burning studio immediately, there was no time for Rip to change out of his ridiculous costume or even wipe off the green makeup. He stumbled out of the soundstage in complete fish drag, as he later described it, looking like something that had crawled out of the ocean. But his nightmare wasn't over yet. Rip quickly discovered that in all the chaos and confusion of the emergency evacuation, he couldn't catch a ride with anyone back to his hotel. Everyone was dazed, scattered, and trying to figure out what had just happened, and somehow Rip got left behind. So there he stood on a Hollywood street corner, dressed as a green sea genie in flippers and pink shorts, with no choice but to walk all the way down Hollywood Boulevard to get back to where he was staying. Pedestrians and drivers did double takes as this bizarre green figure flipper-flopped his way down one of Los Angeles' most famous streets, making what was already a traumatic day even more humiliating for the performer. Fact 4. The Wicked Witch was a fan. One of the most unexpected casting connections in Sigmund and the Sea Monsters involved one of Hollywood's most iconic villains. Margaret Hamilton, who terrified generations of children with her unforgettable performance as the Wicked Witch of the West in the 1939 classic film The Wizard of Oz, appeared on Sigmund as Mrs. Ettles, the nosy elderly neighbor who kept spotting the sea monsters but could never get anyone to believe her. What makes this casting even more interesting is that Hamilton wasn't just taking a paycheck, she was actually a genuine superfan of Sid and Marty Krofft's work. Hamilton had become particularly enamored with the character of Witchy Pooh from the Kroffts' earlier show H.R. Pufnstuf, and she loved the brothers' unique brand of colorful, fantastical children's entertainment. In fact, she was such a fan that she specifically requested to appear on Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, wanting to be part of the Krofft universe. The Kroffts were thrilled to have such a legendary actress join their production, and they brought her from New York specifically to film several episodes. Hamilton and Billy Hayes, who played Witchy Pooh, actually became close friends in real life, and they later reunited to appear together in the Paul Lynde Halloween special in 1976, where Hamilton reprised her Wicked Witch role alongside Hayes' Witchy Pooh. It's a delightful piece of television history that one of cinema's most frightening witches was actually a devoted fan of silly, sweet sea monster comedies. Fact 5. One voice actor, multiple monsters. Behind the voices of the Ooze family was an incredible feat of vocal versatility that most viewers never realized was happening. Walker Edmiston, a legendary voice actor known as the Man of 1,000 Voices, didn't just voice one or two characters on Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, he voiced nearly the entire monster family. Edmiston provided the voice for Sigmund himself, giving the gentle sea monster his kind and innocent sound. But he also voiced Sigmund's gruff, Archie Bunker-like father Big Daddy Ooze, using a completely different tone and personality. On top of that, he voiced both of Sigmund's mean-spirited brothers, Blurp and Slurp, who were constantly trying to drag Sigmund back to the family cave. This meant that whenever the Ooze family had arguments or confrontations, which happened constantly throughout the series, Edmiston was essentially having conversations with himself, switching between multiple distinct character voices in the recording booth. Producer Marty Krofft later praised Edmiston's incredible talent, saying he had such a tremendous voice range that he could do everything they needed. Edmiston had already proven his versatility on other Krofft shows, voicing characters like Dr. Blinky and Orson the Vulture on H.R. Pufnstuf and Enoch the Altrusian on Land of the Lost. The Kroffts relied on him so heavily that he became one of their main voice performers across nearly all their productions during the 1970s, making him an unsung hero of Saturday morning television. Fact 6. First Krofft show to last. Before Sigmund and the Sea Monsters came along, Sid and Marty Krofft had a rather unfortunate pattern with their Saturday morning shows. Every single one of them got canceled after just one season. H.R. Pufnstuf, which premiered in 1969 and became their breakthrough hit with its psychedelic imagery and memorable characters, only lasted 17 episodes before NBC pulled the plug. The Boogaloos, their 1970 series about a rock band of human-sized insects, met the same fate after one season. Lidsville, their 1971 show set in a world of living hats, also got axed after a single season despite its cult following. This pattern was incredibly frustrating for the Kroffts, who poured enormous creativity, craftsmanship, and budget into their elaborate puppet costumes and fantastical set designs, only to see each show disappear before it could build a lasting audience. But Sigmund and the Sea Monsters finally broke the curse. When the show premiered on NBC on September 8, 1973, it found a strong audience and earned positive reviews from critics who praised its more grounded approach compared to the Kroffts' trippier earlier work. The network was pleased enough with the ratings that they commissioned a second season, a first for any Krofft Saturday morning production. This gave the show a total run of 29 episodes across 2 seasons, nearly double what any of their previous shows had achieved. The success of Sigmund proved the Crofts could create a show with staying power, and it paved the way for their next hit, Land of the Lost, which would also run for multiple seasons. Fact 7. All in the Family inspired the Oozes. When it came time to develop the characters for Sigmund's sea monster family, the creative team behind the show looked to an unlikely source for inspiration, one of television's most groundbreaking and controversial sitcoms. Producer Cy Rose, who helped co-create Sigmund and the Sea Monsters alongside Sid and Marty Krofft, was a huge fan of All in the Family, Norman Lear's barrier-breaking comedy that tackled serious social issues through the lens of the bickering Bunker family. Rose saw an opportunity to use that family dynamic as a template for the Ooze clan, creating an underwater parody that would be funny for both kids and adults watching together. Big Daddy Ooze was deliberately fashioned as a sea monster version of Archie Bunker, complete with Archie's grumpy, domineering personality, his constant complaints about his family, and his old-fashioned attitudes about how sea monsters should behave. Sweet Mama Ooze was patterned after Edith Bunker, with her somewhat ditzy, high-pitched voice and her tendency to be long-suffering but devoted to her difficult husband. The parallel was so intentional that the writers even gave Big Daddy and Sweet Mama similar arguments and relationship dynamics to what Archie and Edith had on All in the Family, just transplanted into a cave under the ocean with characters made of seaweed and kelp. The show even went so far as to have Big Daddy watch parody versions of television shows with names like The Cod Squad and Serpent and Son, mimicking how Archie was always planted in front of his TV. Fact 8. Johnny Whitaker's voice betrayed him. One of the most distinctive features of the first season of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters was Johnny Whitaker's frequent musical numbers, where his character Johnny would burst into song to express what he was thinking or feeling about the situations happening in his life. These songs, written by Bobby Hart and Danny Jansen, gave the show a sweet, earnest quality and served as a showcase for Whitaker's singing abilities, which he had already demonstrated in the 1973 musical film version of Tom Sawyer. Whitaker was so associated with the show's music that he performed the first season's theme song, Friends, with Sigmund at the Hollywood Bowl for the World of Sid and Marty Krofft special several weeks before the series even premiered on television. The songs were such an integral part of the show's identity that the Crofts planned to continue them into the second season. However, nature had other plans. Between the filming of the first and second seasons, Johnny Whitaker hit puberty, and his voice began changing in that awkward, unpredictable way that happens to all teenage boys. When production started on season 2, it quickly became obvious that there was a serious problem. Whitaker could no longer get through an entire song without his voice cracking, squeaking, and jumping between his old higher register and his new deeper one. It was simply impossible to record the musical numbers without these embarrassing vocal breaks happening. Rather than trying to work around it or replace Whitaker, the producers made the decision to cut all the musical numbers from season 2 completely, fundamentally changing the tone and style of the show. Fact 9. Billy Barty performed but didn't voice. When viewers watched Sigmund bounce around the clubhouse and interact with Johnny and Scott, they were seeing Billy Barty's physical performance bringing the character to life, but they weren't actually hearing Barty's voice. This was a common practice in the Sid and Marty Krofft productions, where the person inside the elaborate costume would perform all the movements, gestures, and physical comedy on set, but then a voice actor would dub in all the dialogue during post-production. Billy Barty, who stood 3 feet 9 inches tall due to a condition called cartilage hair hypoplasia, was the perfect size to fit inside the Sigmund costume and move around naturally inside the character's bulky seaweed-covered body. Barty's physical comedy skills, honed over decades of performing since childhood, made Sigmund feel alive and expressive through body language alone. However, when it came time to add Sigmund's actual spoken lines, that job fell to Walker Edmiston, the veteran voice actor who, as mentioned earlier, also voiced most of the other Ooze family members. Edmiston recorded all of Sigmund's dialogue separately in a sound booth, giving the character his gentle, innocent vocal quality that perfectly matched the sweet personality the Crofts wanted for their friendly sea monster. This separation of physical performance and voice work allowed the show to have the best of both worlds. Barty's expert puppeteering and physical acting, combined with Edmiston's vocal versatility and recording quality that would have been impossible to capture cleanly on the noisy production set. Fact 10. HR Pufnstuf crossover confusion. During the second season of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, the show featured a crossover episode where the beloved character HR Pufnstuf from the Crofts' earlier series magically appeared in Johnny and Scott's clubhouse. In the episode titled Pufnstuf Drops In, Sheldon the Sea Genie accidentally uses his bumbling magic to transport the friendly dragon into the present day, and chaos naturally ensues when the Ooze family tries to capture and cook the oversized creature. It should have been a fun, straightforward crossover between two Croft shows, but the episode created a bizarre continuity puzzle that was never explained. When Pufnstuf appears, the boys somehow immediately recognize him and know his name, suggesting they're familiar with who he is. But the episode never clarifies how they know him. Is HR Pufnstuf a television show that exists in the Sigmund universe, meaning the boys have watched it on TV? Or does Pufnstuf actually exist as a real creature in their world and they've somehow met him before? The episode treats Pufnstuf's appearance exactly like when Sheldon previously brought historical figure Paul Revere to the clubhouse, as if he's a person who belongs in another time or place and needs to be sent back home. The boys never say anything like, "Wait, I thought you were just a TV character," which is what you'd expect if Pufnstuf were fictional in their reality. The episode just assumes everyone knows who Pufnstuf is without explaining the rules of how this crossover actually works, leaving fans to puzzle over the weird meta implications. Fact 11. Jack Wilde's bizarre cameo. The first season of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters featured a guest appearance by Jack Wilde, the British actor who had starred as Jimmy in the Crofts' earlier series HR Pufnstuf, and earned an Oscar nomination for his role as the Artful Dodger in the 1968 film Oliver. In the episode titled The Wild Weekend, Wilde appears as himself, supposedly taking a break from his busy career as a major movie star to spend a quiet weekend at the beach, surfing and relaxing away from the Hollywood spotlight. The housekeeper Zelda and even Sweet Mama Ooze recognize him as a famous actor and get completely starstruck, with Sweet Mama specifically mentioning that she knows him from those foreign human movies on The Late Late Show. The episode makes references to Oliver and treats Wilde as if he's a huge international celebrity who needs to escape from the paparazzi and studio executives. What makes the episode so strange is that it never once acknowledges the obvious elephant in the room, that Jack Wilde had literally just starred in another Sid and Marty Krofft show a few years earlier. There's no winking reference to HR Pufnstuf, no joke about, "Hey, haven't we met before in another colorful fantasy world?" Nothing that acknowledges the meta-connection that would have been obvious to any kid watching who remembered seeing Wilde on Pufnstuf. It's as if the episode exists in a reality where HR Pufnstuf never happened, and Jack Wilde is just a random movie star with no connection to the Croft universe whatsoever. Fact 12. The mystery of the missing parents. One of the most bizarre and unexplained elements of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters was the complete absence of Johnny and Scott's parents throughout the entire run of the series. In the show's setup, the boys live in a beach house where they're looked after by Zelda, their overbearing housekeeper, while their parents are supposedly away on vacation. That premise makes perfect sense for the pilot episode, or even for a few episodes. Parents going on a trip and leaving the kids with a caretaker is a common sitcom setup. But what makes it weird is that this vacation apparently lasted for the show's entire 2-year run, spanning 29 episodes, and the parents never once returned home or even appeared on screen. There's no episode where the boys get a phone call from mom and dad, no scene where they have to hide Sigmund because the parents are coming home early, no explanation of where exactly these parents went or why they've been gone for so long. Zelda acts as their full-time guardian, and later when she's temporarily replaced by the strict former Marine drill sergeant Gertrude Gooch in Season 2, there's still no sign of the actual parents. The show just treats it as normal that these two young boys live in a house with their housekeeper indefinitely with no parental supervision. It's one of those classic sitcom logic problems where something that would be deeply concerning in real life just gets completely ignored because addressing it would complicate the simple premise of kids hiding a sea monster in their clubhouse. Fact 13. Big Daddy had a secret name. For most of Sigmund and the sea monsters, the patriarch of the Ooze family was simply known as Big Daddy Ooze, a fitting name for the gruff, Archie Bunker-inspired character who ruled the family cave with his loud complaints and old-fashioned ideas about how sea monsters should behave. But in one episode from the first season, viewers learned that Big Daddy actually had a proper first name that his family apparently never used. In the 6th episode of Season 1, an uptight sea monster tax collector arrives at the Ooze family cave to conduct an audit, demanding to see all their financial records and verify that every member of the family is properly accounted for as a tax deduction. When the bureaucratic tax collector starts checking names off his official list, he refers to the family patriarch not as Big Daddy, but as Melvin Ooze, revealing his real given name for the first and only time in the entire series. The episode treats it as a throwaway line, just part of the official paperwork being processed during the audit. But it's a hilarious detail that Big Daddy's actual name is the decidedly unintimidating Melvin. After this single mention, the name is never brought up again, not by Sweet Mama, not by the brothers, not by any other visiting relatives or friends. Everyone goes right back to calling him Big Daddy for the remaining episodes, as if the tax collector had never revealed his secret identity. It's the kind of small continuity detail that makes fans wonder if the writers even remembered it themselves. Fact 14. The lobster that barked among the many strange creatures living in the Ooze family cave at Deadman's Point, perhaps none was weirder than Prince, the family's beloved pet lobster who defied everything you know about how lobsters actually behave. Instead of scuttling around silently on the ocean floor like a normal crustacean, Prince barked like a small dog and was regularly walked on a leash by members of the Ooze family as if he were a puppy. Sweet Mama Ooze was absolutely devoted to Prince, treating him as her precious baby and fussing over him constantly with the kind of maternal affection usually reserved for actual children. She would coo at him, worry about his well-being, and generally act as if he were the most important member of the household. The funny thing was that despite all of Sweet Mama's attention and affection, Prince didn't actually like her very much. The only member of the family he truly bonded with was Sigmund. This created a running gag throughout the series where Sweet Mama would lavish attention on Prince and be confused or hurt when he ignored her in favor of following Sigmund around the cave or barking happily when Sigmund came to visit. The absurdity of a barking, leash-walking lobster was exactly the kind of silly, logic-defying element that made Sid and Marty Krofft's shows so memorable. It was never explained why Prince barked instead of making lobster sounds, or how a marine creature could function as a pet dog. It was just accepted as part of the weird rules of the underwater Ooze family world. Fact 15. Billy Barty founded Little People of America. Long before Billy Barty put on the Sigmund costume and became a beloved children's television character, he had already established himself as one of the most important activists for people with dwarfism in American history. In 1957, nearly 2 decades before Sigmund and the Sea Monsters premiered, Barty recognized that people of short stature faced discrimination, isolation, and a lack of community support in dealing with the unique challenges of their condition. He decided to do something about it by calling upon people with dwarfism to join him for a get-together in Reno, Nevada, with the goal of forming an organization that could provide support, advocacy, and connection. That original meeting attracted just 21 people, but it marked the founding of Little People of America, the first North American organization specifically dedicated to supporting individuals with dwarfism and their families. Under Barty's passionate leadership, the organization grew exponentially over the following decades, providing resources, advocating for disability rights, fighting against discrimination, and creating a nationwide community where people with dwarfism could connect, share experiences, and support each other. By the time of Barty's death in 2000, Little People of America had grown to more than 6,800 members, becoming an international entity that continues its mission today. Barty's activism work was just as important as his entertainment career. He was disappointed when fellow little person actor Hervé Villechaize insisted on using outdated terminology like midgets instead of actors with dwarfism. And Barty even served on the board that drafted the Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990. In 1990. In 1990. In 1990.